Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Thursday, November 17th, 2022. It's about 7:30 a.m. in the eastern part of the United States and 2:30 p.m. in Egypt. And that's where the HBCU Green Fund lives up to their mission to strengthen diversity at this year's United Nations Climate Change Conference in Egypt. After successfully hosting a pre-COP27 virtual summit, HBCU Green Fund founder Felicia Davis is leading a delegation of 27 persons from Africa and the diaspora to participate in the esteemed event and advocate for climate action now. Here to join us, of course, is the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr., and all the way from Egypt is Felicia Davis of the HBCU Green Fund, and she's got a crew with her. Good morning, Felicia. Good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Good morning, Felicia. Good afternoon to
Good
all of our
morning.
brothers and sisters there
Good
in
morning.
Egypt. You're looking good. Telecommunications. We're so proud of all the work
Is
that you're
work-
doing there at COP27.
Yes, and
Yes, and
go ahead, Felicia. Tell us what you're doing out there.
so Shelley, first with Dr. Chavis on the line now, I think that I will just, behind me, we're in a small space because it's noisy if we go out. So I just want everybody to shout out their country so that your audience has a feel for those that are engaged in the work here at COP. And this is only a small sample of the group. So I'm just going to run it around quickly again in the same order.
Hello, my name is Hussein Kasim and I'm from Ghana.
Hello,
Very
here
good.
is Barakalenga from Tanzania.
Hello, here is Abdul Hamid from Kenya.
Hello, here is Hussein Losanzu from Tanzania.
Wait, Kenny, US.
So with that, what we did was last year, COP26 in Glasgow, it seemed to me we're seriously underrepresented. And we know that in terms of impact, Africa has contributed the least.
Good morning, ladies and
but
gentlemen. Good morning. Welcome aboard Excella 21.
climate impacts. And because of that, we made a commitment to bring not only more people from Africa, but also from the US. So I partnered with Dr. Mildred McLean from Harambe House in Savannah. So they brought people from the South, the dirty South, and we were responsible for gathering folks from East, West, and Southern Africa.
Wow. So you're there, you're presenting I understand a two-part presentation on the environment, development, and action for a sustainable Africa future. Tell us more about that. And I know Dr. Chavis wants to chime in because Dr. Chavis is the leading advocate for the environment from the United States and all around. But Felicia, tell us about this presentation out in Egypt.
Well, we're just so proud of the work that Felicia Davis is doing. And to all of our colleagues, our fellow freedom fighters there in Africa, we just want them to know that the environmental justice movement is a global movement. We can't have a movement without the movement in Africa and throughout the diaspora. And we're going to stay in touch and continue to fight for environmental justice, fight for climate justice.
We lost his volume, but go ahead, Felicia. Tell us about this presentation.
So what we have done in our presentation is today, and what we're presenting is actual solutions and activities from across the diaspora. So we believe that solutions, local solutions work best, work well. And so each of these individuals and more have been responsible for implementing various programs in their community. So at the grassroots, local, community-based level. So that's number one. Number two, as a collective, Africa, from the governmental level on down, is making a coordinated demand for loss and damage financing, or what we would relate to as really reparations for the damage that has been done. So it can be put in many, many different frames. Now, beyond that, I think the most positive and impactful outcome for people of African descent is the fact that here at COP, we have linked together. So I can't say to what extent we have impacted the UN process itself, but we have an elevated presence because we are actually speaking to you from the Climate Justice Pavilion, the first ever. So this is COP27, and this is the first time that justice has been centered in its own space within COP. Now, there are other issues, and I'll let Destin Sapija, we want to have at least one or two people that can scoot in. You have been
Good morning,
active
ladies and gentlemen.
in spaces and actions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Destin Sapija. I'm from Uganda. I've been a member of multiple spaces in the climate movement, but this time around in COP, we are here at the Climate Justice Pavilion. We are having our voices heard, and today we are having our session in the evening. So we are going to be talking about our experience working with communities that are fully affected by the climate crisis, since we are the people who are always on ground to know what is happening to our people, to know how our people are dying and suffering. Some people just see them on news, but for us, we are always in these communities to witness and tell this story as it is on ground.
Yeah, it sounds excellent. And we know that we know we're in a crisis when it comes to the environment, when it comes to climate change and things of that nature. But Felicia and those future leaders that you have with you, it seems like there is some promise. Tell us a little bit about the hope that you can have because of work like what you guys are doing.
So a couple of things. We tend to think of younger people as future leaders because in the West and in the US, we have the luxury of people growing up over a very extended period of time. In Africa, more than 50% of the population is 20 years old or younger. 40% of the population is under 15. So as a result, when it comes to responsibility for work, progress, activity, most people are young, 50% under 20. So if you go to 30, you got most of the people. So these young people, while they are young, and while we believe that bridging Dr. Chavis, myself, HBCUs, the value that we can bring to the table, knowing that such young people are already in leadership positions, if we can reinforce them with our knowledge, research, technology, access to resources, then in fact, they can develop their communities in a sustainable way. And at the same time, the takeaway for us is that connection. So when it comes to business development, when it comes to markets, all of that, that can be also beneficial for ourselves and especially our young people as they are developing. We have specific projects. We are working with an eco village project. Elaine, you can describe that better, so lean in.
Absolutely. So we are working with HBCU students and taking them to an eco village in Senegal to be able to learn on the ground and also help provide experience and education with their partners and peers, and really kind of creating that intercontinental link so that we're all developing and growing in a future that's aligned and together.
And Dr. Chavis, isn't that
Very good.
important? That how important that it is that the HBCUs are heavily involved in this movement.
Absolutely. I just want to salute again the work Davis and HBCU Green Fund and all of our brothers and sisters there in Africa. What we need to do, Felicia, I would like to establish this communication link so we don't have to wait to just once a year. I would like for this to go on a regular basis, on almost a daily basis, where we communicate, where we work together, we plan together, and we engage together.
So what we can offer, prior to coming to COP for about 4 months, we had a weekly conversation with 20 countries across sub-Saharan Africa. So we do that 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time every Tuesday. We've had a hiatus because of being here at COP, but we can arrange, because of Zoom and the technology, we're able to do that. And then we can also, I will share with them, Dr. Chavis has a vision of the platform being able to serve not only African Americans, but Africans. And it is a newspaper publishers association. So from print to print going electronic, and we already have a number of outlets. So for these bringing young people into a digital space, we can become the go-to, starting with environment and sustainability. If we get that right, other people can handle politics and commentary. So
that's good
we
news.
are
That's good.
100% on board.
So,
with
so we want to make that commitment publicly. That would be part of our global environmental justice network.
Absolutely. I mean, the partnership is perfect. The other thing we will mention, there's other people that we connected with here. For example, there's a sister in the U.S. Embassy in London who is tasked with her normal job, but also things like Juneteenth celebration in our embassies. So if we stop and think about it, now that it is a national holiday, not my favorite one by any means, but it gives us an opportunity to go into whether it's Colombia in South America or Brazil or throughout Europe, as well as the continent. So we have some frameworks, opportunities, and the major thing that comes out of this conversation, our presence in COP, is that leaving here tomorrow, Saturday, we actually can do this. So
and
if we go from vision to action.
Felicia Davis is in Egypt with a contingent of environmental justice leaders over there. Felicia, what is it like on the continent as far as the fight for climate justice? Where do they stand for the most part that you can see? What you have, I mean, you have representatives from different nations from the continent. How advanced, I should say, how far along are they in their fight? Because we know there's been a struggle here in the States, there's been a struggle across the world. How do things stand on the continent?
So it's one struggle. It's one struggle. The exact same thing. They're fighting pipelines. They're fighting industry. They are fighting extraction without benefit and extraction because of impact on the planet. They are challenged with the lack of resources. And then on top of that, when it comes to poverty, you have a situation where across Africa, unemployment is a bigger problem day to day than climate change, even though climate change is causing disasters that impact whole communities, push migration, push other problems where it's very difficult to recover. So Africa is a continent that I believe has been waiting for us. And if we have to, us being those of us in the West. And so the bridge with NNPA, with this program, is to put the call out to say there is both opportunity and challenge. So every challenge that Africa is experiencing now is an enormous challenge for the rest of us. But they have everything, floods and drought. And the same place that has floods has drought, which, you know, doesn't even really make sense when you think about how can you have so much erosion with whole cities falling into the sea. And you know that large parts of the population tend to live on the coast, and that's true across the planet. So you can be looking at Miami or looking at Durban or Uganda with a river. The impacts are the same, but the capacity to recover is much less in places where they are less affluent. And then Hussein is behind me, so you can lean in because he's very articulate when it comes to impacts.
Yes, hello. So I've actually been involved with Action for Climate Empowerment. I'm part of the YONGO, which is the Young constituency of the UNFCCC. And we are doing, and with my on the ground, I'm working with an organization called Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Empowerment. Okay. So what we are engaged in is to try to educate the youth, empower them, and also give them the necessary tools to be able to impact projects which are climate oriented in the communities. So we have a project we are running called the White Farm, which is a community. There's a community in the eastern part of Ghana which is highly affected by climate change. There's no water there, so it's very difficult when it comes to food security. So what we try to do is to encourage the youth there, give them the necessary tools to be able to be involved in farming, because you know Africa's main sustainability is farming. So that's one huge project we are doing. And then when it comes to negotiations, I'm part of Ghana's youth negotiators, and by the support of Felicia, I got to be here. So we've been actually advocating for financing to be part of the negotiations, which is the action plan for 4 years. But that is something that hasn't really gone very well, which we are hoping that, because there are a number of initiative projects, innovations that youth have implemented down in Africa. But the main issue is with those innovations and creativity, without the funding, it will be very difficult to implement. So as part of the ACE action plan, we were really advocating that developed countries take the responsibility in terms of funding, so that some of these initiatives that my colleagues from Uganda, Tanzania, and all the other places, we get the little support to be able to impact on the ground, so that it doesn't just become a matter of attending conferences and then on the ground our people are struggling. So this is something I think we will be happy, and we are very happy with Felicia for the support she's giving us. We hope that when we go back home, we'll be able to impact directly on the people. Thank you.
Yeah. Also to add on his statement, with regards to the main issue where we are here is to put pressure on the policymakers and whoever is responsible for releasing the climate finance to make sure that we don't suffer a lot on projects. There are a lot of projects that we can actually work on to reverse the climate crisis. If we talk about the 1.5 degrees Celsius, there is no way we are going to have this done when the loss and damage finance is not released. So we are here to make sure that we put pressure on policymakers to release the climate finance so that this money can help us on project. As well, Felicia and the HBCU Green Fund has been making sure that she connects us to people who have potential to help us on projects in future, because young people all over the world have projects that have potential to reverse the climate crisis and also to make us reach the goal of 1.5 degrees.
Wow. And it was mentioned about the developed nations. How do you get them to do their fair share, Felicia?
Well, if I had that answer, I defer to Dr. Taylor. We've tried a number of different strategies. And because there's a part of it that, regardless of what nation states do, climate
Right.
is impacting people. And therefore, we have to do what we must do. If anybody asked me how myself and Dr. Mildred McLean could come together and support 25, 30 people to come to Egypt, it would have been impossible. So there was initially, there was nothing in place to even make that happen. So, but it's essential that people are here. And now it's essential that we're able to talk about the impacts that we're experiencing. But if we connect together ourselves, the resource that we have within ourselves, I think we can solve much of our problem ourselves. And we are the leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we move out, then that work will be supported because it benefits everyone.
Yeah.
But right now, moving the United States or the EU, I defer to Dr. Chavis.
Well, thank you. One of the most fundamental human rights is the right to self-determination. And I think that people of African descent will have much more definitive to say about the wording of what comes out of the United Nations, but the actions that come out of the United Nations. And I think that our unity between brothers and about the whole is emerging as the largest.
And I think we are.
And for that, these big nations, yes. So I'm saying solidarity,
Mhm.
unity at the grassroots level will make the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And Felicia, we appreciate the work you're doing out there, and that whole crew you brought with you. We're so happy you brought them with you this morning. We got to have you back, Felicia, because we want to make sure that when we have you back, when you get back to the States, we want to explain to Black America why we should care about climate change, why it's important. So we see that the crew you have with you, they understand it. Maybe you can bring all of that knowledge that you already have and their knowledge back with you, so we can help educate our communities about the importance of climate change and why we should care. Felicia Davis, all the way from Egypt, we really appreciate you taking out the time, joining Let It Be Known to bring this highly important topic to us. Thanks so much. And of course, Dr. Chavis is always on the go. So we are grateful that the president and CEO was able to stop in and give us some words of wisdom as well. Thanks for joining Let It Be Known, and we will see you tomorrow.